Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm sure it's a national day of something. I'm not sure what that is yet. I'd like to call the Legislative Committee to order. Today being Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. Please call the roll.
Allen, Bates, Brown,
Brown here.
Silva, Wallace,
Wallace here.
Strathman, Gums.
Gums here.
You have a quorum.
Shepro here.
Thank you. Bates here. All right, very good. Motion to approve the minutes from July 21st, 2021.
Brown will move.
Brown
Strathman
moves.
seconds.
Strathman seconds. All in favor, unanimous consent. Can we do that on it? Opposed? No? All right, good. We're going to skip right ahead because we have a presentation. So Cheryl, if you want to.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Cheryl Strathman, and I have invited this morning to have my state rep, Anna Muller, come and talk to us about the busy year that they've had last year. Anna, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Let me just tell everybody what a rock star you are. Anna is the chairwoman of the Human Services Committee, as well as vice chair for the Human Services Appropriations Committee. She serves on the Commission for Government Forecasting and Accountability, the Insurance Committee, the Energy and Environmental Committee, Healthcare Licensing Committee, Elementary and Secondary Education, Administration Licensing and Charters. She has worked on legislation for pay equity, good government reforms, environmental protection. She's been a very busy lady. So I've invited Anna today to just talk to us a little bit about recapping what their last year was like. So Anna, good morning and thank you for being with us.
Good morning, and thank you to all of you for what you do on behalf of the county. It's always a pleasure to work with Cheryl and Chris and Fern and Jarrett and all of you on the legislative committee and in a larger sense, the county board. So I thank you for your service. I know it's not, these are challenging times that we're living through. So Cheryl did invite me to kind of just give a little bit of a brief overview of what happened last year. I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy to take questions about legislation or issues that you're concerned about. I'm coming to you from Springfield. We are in veto session this week and next week, and I'm happy to provide a little bit of an overview of what we're kind of looking at during the veto session as well. So just to kind of recap what we were focused on here in Springfield back during the spring session, and we had a couple of special sessions over the summer. As you know, and what you are all dealing with is COVID-19 recovery and pandemic recovery, and making sure that we're keeping our small businesses and local governments and healthcare facilities afloat, social service agencies afloat during the pandemic. And that was a big part of our agenda last year in Springfield. We started off the session back in January of 2021. We had a new legislative session start. We have a new Speaker of the House, Chris Welch, who was elected last January. So that was a big change in the House of Representatives. And we started off the year meeting remotely for the most part via committees. We amended our rules so that we could conduct business remotely in the committee structure. We went back in person starting in, I believe it was early April, once a lot of us had been vaccinated. And it was deemed to be a little bit safer to be together in person. And so our session was cut short in-person session was cut short. But regardless, we were still able to get a lot of work done because we were meeting remotely before that. So anyway, we passed COVID relief. We passed ARPA, allocated the first year of ARPA funds. I know that the county is getting, and it's my understanding, Jarrett, board member Sanchez is leading up the effort to distribute ARPA money that's been granted to Kane County. Where we are making sure that we're getting money out to small businesses, local governments, our social service agencies, capital improvements, to help fund water and sewer capital, and make sure that we're supporting our downtowns and other economic drivers in our communities. Our initial investment with the ARPA recovery plan was $450 million. But we had 1.5 billion for businesses, families, and communities. We passed our FY22 budget, which totals $42.3 billion. Taxes remained flat. Our revenues were better than we expected, so we were able to increase funding for some key areas in our budget, including K through 12 education. We put in an additional $350 million for schools, which is directly benefiting U46 and schools in Aurora, based on our new funding formula that we passed several years ago to make sure that we're sending money to school districts that have higher poverty rates and have higher needs with special services. We also increased funding for childcare assistance to make sure that families who are looking for jobs or going back into the workforce have access to affordable childcare. We allocated $3.4 billion in that area. We also increased funding for individuals with developmental disabilities. For the first time in many years, we increased funding by $170 million for those services. And we were able to do a lot of that by also closing $650 million in corporate loopholes that had been on the books, and from decoupling from federal tax breaks that the former administration had put into place during his tenure. So we were able to get through and again make additional investments in our in the areas that have been underfunded for a very long time, without raising taxes on families. I serve on the I'm the vice chair of the Human Services Appropriations Committee, and so directly involved with the budget from that perspective. I also serve on the Commission on Government Finance and Accountability. So we monitor revenues that are coming into the state, how the fiscal outlook of the state, and we, again, things were a little bit better than we expected because of the fact that people were home shopping and buying goods, and because of the stimulus that we, came down from the federal government. In addition to the budget and ARPA, we also passed ethics reform in the General Assembly. With the election of a new speaker, we implemented term limits on speaker and on leadership in the House. As you all know, our former speaker had been in place for over 30 years as the speaker. We changed the term limit for speakers to 10 years. So that was a big change. We also passed an ethics bill this past summer that puts a ban on lobbying for legislators for a certain amount of time after they leave the General Assembly, and also increased transparency on statements of economic interest. We also passed an omnibus elections bill, which makes voting by mail permanent, and the use of mail drop boxes for all upcoming elections. That was a very successful element in the 2020 election. People really, I think, appreciated having those available. And so we're making those permanent to those entities that want them. And we moved the primary to June 28th, because of the fact that census data was late. I know you guys are all dealing with remaps for county board districts. We similarly went through a remap, and we had to move the primary so that we could make sure we had our maps in place before the next election. And then this summer, congratulations to the county for taking advantage of the new climate energy bill that we passed this summer, increasing investments in solar and wind, decommissioning our most polluting power plants by the middle of the century. Some would have wanted it faster, but we wanted to make sure that we were helping people who work in those industries find new jobs and transition out of those jobs. It's one of the more aggressive plans in the country here in Illinois to move to a carbon neutral or carbon free energy sector. And we also are making sure that any new jobs that are created in solar and wind and new renewable energy industries are benefiting Black and Brown communities as well. So we're making sure that there's equity and that we're uplifting communities that had been left behind historically. So that it was a very comprehensive bill. It took a long time because of how much it accomplishes, but I was very happy that we were able to get it over the finish line just about a month ago. And then so those are some of the big top line items that we accomplished as a legislature. I have a couple things that I've been working on. I was happy to be a sponsor of legislation thanks to Corrine, Chairwoman Pirog, Board Member Strathman, and you as the Legislative Committee. It came to our attention last year that the former administration had misfiled or sent in paperwork late to collect cannabis taxes, cannabis sales taxes for the county. And the county was looking at missing out on revenue this year because of that. So I filed the bill in the House, and Senator Castro had it in the Senate with the help of the Department of Revenue to make sure that at least a couple months of revenue was collected for the county. So we were able to do that early. That was one of the first bills that actually passed out of the House this year. Our leadership fast tracked it so that we could get it in place in time so that you guys could collect your taxes.
Thank you so much for that, Anna.
Anna, thank you so much.
Well,
The money is so badly needed.
And it's a good example of like what working together through, different levels of government, and good communication can do. That wouldn't have happened had it not been for you guys, all of you being very proactive and reaching out and educating me and my colleagues on why this was necessary. So through your efforts, we're able to bring in additional money to the county and invest in public safety and take pressure off of property taxes and other forms of revenue. So that was the first bill that I was able to get through last year. I had a bill that would require school districts to support young victims of sexual assaults, domestic violence, and parents in school to make sure that they stay in school, that they receive trauma-informed care, and so that they can graduate and go on to live healthy lives. That was a bill many, many, many years in the making, and we were finally able to get it over the finish line this year. Also passed a bill to address social isolation in our nursing homes. And this is an area that nursing home reform is an area that is close, near and dear to my heart, as watching family members and neighbors and loved ones, in nursing homes and seeing the level of care that's not always very good in Illinois. So this is an issue I have taken on. I used to chair the aging committee and became, more like from a policy perspective. But now we are taking more aggressive measures to make sure that our nursing home, which is largely for profit in Illinois, is adequately staffing and adequately implementing infection control policies and quality of life policies, to help make sure that their residents, live in dignity and safety. That's a struggle. The nursing home industry is very, has a lot of money and has been protected in the past from reform. But there's new leadership now and a new desire, and I think more of an urgency because of what happened with COVID and so many of the early deaths from COVID happening in nursing homes in our state, that we are making, and the governor is very supportive. We've been holding hearings throughout the spring and summer to shed light on some of the problems in the industry and the need for reform. So I have a bill that would link any new funds that go to nursing homes from federal or state resources. They have to be used for staffing, have to be used for quality of life improvements, and things that they're already supposed to be doing but are not doing. And so that's what I've been working on that pretty extensively this summer and fall. And I think that is pretty much it. As I said, we're in veto session right now. Some of the things that we're looking at, the governor is pushing to amend the healthcare right of conscience. You guys may have heard about this. We have a lot to address some of the vaccine hesitancy issues, especially in the southern part of our state. I mean, we all know that we're not going to get out of this pandemic until people get vaccinated. There are those who are trying to use, we have a law that was passed several years ago that gives doctors and pharmacists the ability to not have to perform abortions or dispense birth control if it violates their moral or religious beliefs. And they can use this Healthcare Right of Conscience Act to do that. Well, now we're finding that there are those who are using this to avoid getting tested for COVID or using it to avoid getting vaccinated. And so the governor has asked the General Assembly to narrow that act to exempt vaccines and from the Healthcare Right of Conscience Act. And as you can imagine, we're getting, letters and emails from people who are upset about that. But that's one of the things that we're looking at. We expect that might come up for a vote next week. We're also looking at fixing some language around the elected school board in Chicago, and implementing this economic incentives for electric vehicles, which was part of the energy bill that passed this summer, to make sure that we are building electric vehicles here in Illinois and attracting jobs and keeping jobs here in Illinois and benefiting from this new incentive. It's a $4,000 incentive to anyone who buys an electric vehicle under the legislation that we passed during the summer. So that is what we're doing right now. We will be going back into regular session sometime in the end of January. Everyone's predicting that it might be a shorter session this year because of the fact that it's an election year and we have the primary in June, but we've not been told anything official on that yet. So with that, I will stop talking and answer questions that you guys might have.
Question?
Mr. Shepro, go ahead.
Yes, Representative Mueller, I'm Ken Shepro, the County Board Vice Chair.
I can.
Yesterday, Madam Chair and I met with our county clerk
Mhm.
on the issue of precinct size and division. And we understand that there is a bill, I think it's House Bill 4115, which would raise the maximum size of precincts. In our county, if we had to follow the existing statute, we might have to almost double the size of our precincts. And our understanding is that bill is scheduled for possible consideration in the veto session.
Yeah, so I have not, that was Representative West, I believe, is the sponsor on that.
Yeah.
Oh, let me take a look.
That is accurate.
Yeah. So I have not heard it in our chamber, but there has been talk of another omnibus elections bill that might be considered during veto. And that might happen, and something like this bill might be included, but I've not seen, and nor have we talked about that at all in caucus. So I can't say with any certainty that that's going to happen in the next 5 days or so. But if it does, I'm happy to keep you guys updated. If something like this starts moving. Is this something that you think your committee would be inclined to take a position on, or?
If this is Chairman Pirog, I don't think that the committee's had the opportunity to speak on this yet.
Okay.
What we were told is that either it can go, as Mr. Shepro says, no longer at 600. And of course, some of our precincts, because of population growth in areas, has grown much higher than that. Proposal is at 1,200. And then the Chicago or Cook County, I'm not sure, has requested 1,800. And that would be registered voters.
Yeah.
So we don't know because of the increase of vote by mail. I think that's the push to increase the size of the precincts.
Yeah.
This committee has not formally considered it, as was noted, but I think that there is a general agreement that since the law says we have to do one thing on the budget and maybe the realities, since the existing statute was passed back in the days when only people voted on election day.
Right.
And so the size was dictated by the desire to cut down on election day lines.
Sure.
And the clerk, I think, has argued persuasively that you don't have long lines on election day anymore.
Mhm.
And so requiring divisions with extra judges and polling places is really unnecessary.
Right.
But as Madam Chair mentioned, we understand that there is a perhaps competing or perhaps companion bill that would address a different standard for Cook County or the city of Chicago.
Mhm.
And I understand that some of your colleagues have been reached out to on this, but
Mhm.
I think we'd appreciate anything you might do, or just to be familiar with it if it should come up. I know a lot of these bills surface at the last minute.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing it up, and I will keep you apprised if I hear that this is moving, during our time here in October.
Thank you, Mr. Shepro. Anybody
Thank
else
you.
have any questions?
I'd
Ms.
just like
Bates?
to know what leaning we have. Do we have a leaning right now? And if we want these
Well, at
precincts?
at this level, I haven't even looked at this
Okay.
bill, so I
Okay.
think it's something that we should
All
look
right.
at first.
I
but
have a comment.
Go right ahead, Ms. Bates.
Thank you, Ms. Moeller, for all of your support for the clean energy bill. We really appreciate it. And I know you helped the fight. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. And again, it's really exciting to see the county already moving so quickly to have that solar installation move forward. And
We
it's
couldn't have done it without the bill. So thank you for that support.
proud of you guys.
Representative Mueller, this is Chair Gums. I just have a
Yeah.
quick, don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna.
Okay.
A lot of folks are asking about our mortgage assistance. I think they call it half. There's rental assistance programs that have been in place and the applications have been available. Originally, I was told that the process to request assistance for mortgage would be coming out in the fall.
Mhm.
And I got some complaints that has been pushed back. So I don't know if you have any update on that, so I can go back and report. All I can report is what's on the webpage as well, but
Right.
folks are concerned because they're currently in forbearance. Their forbearance is going away, but they
Sure.
don't have any even application from the state.
Right, right. Yeah, I had seen that it had been pushed back as well. I'm happy to get more specific information for you
Oh,
and
great.
find
Yeah,
out
yeah.
why.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot because,
No, no.
you know, but a lot of folks are being helped by the rental, but not the mortgage, so.
Yeah. Yep. Let me see what I can find out and I'll get your contact info from Cheryl. Cheryl?
Yeah.
Or
Great.
member? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.
Carol, you got anything?
And Anna, you actually have Michelle's contact information. Evie has it in your office.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yes, that's right. The traveling,
Legislative
Cheryl and
traveling
Michelle
show,
show?
yes.
yes, of that.
And I
Okay.
have a quick question about the electric vehicles.
Mhm, mhm.
That is for the all electric vehicles as opposed to the hybrid electrics.
The incentive or the
Yes.
$4,000 rebate, I
Yes.
believe it is, but I can confirm that as well.
Okay, I was just curious.
And this comes again.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking, well, not really even talking about it, but Senate Bill is 1649, which is it's amending the Community Mental Health Act. And that will be something that maybe you can put on your radar as well, because that'll benefit our sheriff's department to bring 20% of that revenue back directly to him, or all sheriffs for that matter. So
Okay.
we'd like
What
you
was
to
the
have
number
that on
on
your
that?
radar as well.
I'm sorry. The Senate Bill
It's Senate Bill 1649.
1640. Okay. Okay. Yep.
And that bill is being co-sponsored by Senator DeWitt. So you
Yeah.
may want to reach out to him. I don't know why he's being co-sponsored, but he's one of the sponsors of it.
Okay. All right. I will take a look at that.
Excellent. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, Anna, we so appreciate you giving us this update and letting us know what's going on in Springfield and how it's impacting our work here in the county. And we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be with all of you, and hopefully we can do this in person sometime soon.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
And don't hesitate to reach out if you need my contact info. Feel free. I know I have. I'm on the ILGO website, and I'm in downtown Elgin. But I'm also happy to give you guys my my cell number. I will put it in the chat.
Careful what
So
you
if
ask
you wanna-
for. Careful what you ask for.
I trust all of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to put it in the chat, and feel free to, if there is because I'm sincere about this. There's 6,000 bills, 3,000 bills that are introduced every year. Well, 6,000, I think, when we start the 2-year cycle, and 3,000 the second year. So it's hard to keep track of, so many pieces of legislation. If you know of something that's coming up for a vote in particular, and you have a concern or a question, call me. Don't hesitate. Use my cell number, call me, and just say, let me know, because that's sometimes, if I don't hear from people, sometimes things can, slip
Well,
by. So,
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And you touched on something that's people need to reach out to you when they support stuff that you're working on as well, because a lot of times people only reach out when there's opposition.
Yeah,
And we need that support so that you can say, hey, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
exactly. That's a
So I
great
think
point. Yeah.
We bring that up often in legislative committee because it is essential to get stuff done. So
Mhm.
if you ever need us, let us know as well.
I will. I will. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank
The
you.
rest of your week. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
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 So continuing on, as far as legislative updates, maybe you want to speak on the, give us a recap.
Okay, I have a,
Mike, please.
like, please, yes, ma'am. And I will take my mask off to speak, I believe would be a good idea. So I was, so the Climate and Equity Jobs Act, that's way too loud, is a bill that we've been working on in Illinois for about 5 years. We got the FEJA bill, Future Energy Jobs Act, passed in 2016, which made great strides towards helping green energy in Illinois. Now we've gotten the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act passed just recently, about a month ago. And I wrote down 6 pillars that I believe are the mainstays of the Clean Energy Jobs Act. The first pillar is getting rid of carbon pollution in our energy sector. So the main thrust of this will be closing down the power plants, the coal power plants. So this was a very difficult task in Illinois because so many of our municipalities have energy that comes from coal power plants, such as Prairie State Coal. And Prairie State Coal is not only the biggest polluter in Illinois, but it's among the top 7 polluters in the country. So maybe among the top 7 polluters in North America. So this was a very difficult negotiation, but we did close the deal. Prairie State will close gradually, reducing its emissions. And by 2045, it should be closed completely. There's a couple of small contingencies on that, but mainly we can say it will be closed by 2040, which is longer than the environmentalists wanted. But like Representative Moeller said, it did give the locations more time to transition. So the second pillar is an increase in renewable energy. This bill is going to multiply by about 5 times the amount of renewable energy incentives that we've had over the last 5 years. So this is attacking climate change where it starts. That's with our emissions from our energy sector. So by encouraging people to have more solar panels on their houses, you know me, I've got solar panels on my house. That I had terrible solar panel envy, so we had to go get some more for the county as well. But we are, and that could not have happened without this bill, because this bill is going to pay for the SRECs, the solar renewable energy credits, that is behind the business case for these renewable energy projects. So the third pillar is an increase in energy efficiency. So this was also one of the pillars for FEJA. And because the cheapest energy to clean up is the energy that you don't use. So this includes things like insulation in your attic, better windows, and there's a lot of good paying jobs that will spring out of these energy efficiency projects. Number 4, this is quite an audience. Number 4 is cleaning up our transportation sector, which Ms. Moeller referred to that for the $4,000 rebate. I don't know if it'll be for hybrids or not, but it's definitely only for new cars. So and I never buy new cars. So, so this is going to be especially for EV cars, rebates for EV cars and infrastructure. We got an email yesterday from ComEd saying, come and get your charging station. So I bought a Chevy Bolt a few years ago and I never put in a charging station. So now there's some good deals on charging stations coming out of this bill. So the fifth and very interesting and important pillar is equity. As an environmentalist, a lot of us wanted to just focus on solar panels and coal. But what it turned out was a good environmentalist realizes that we can't have neighborhoods and communities of color or the BIPOCs, the Black, Indigenous, and people of color that are being unjustly affected by pollution and, either chemical pollution, air pollution. So there were many aspects to the equity pillar for CEJA. One is called a just transition. And what that actually means is these coal communities, such as down south where the Prairie State coal power plant is, or communities with coal mining, we want them to go through a just transition to make sure that those communities are not devastated by the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy fuels. So that can include even things like, this bill will help support property values, property taxes in some of these communities. So these communities that have been thriving coal towns will not become ghost towns. There's another provision for training of incarcerated people who will soon be returning to the workforce. So they're there's funding for solar training, wind training, energy efficiency training for just before people get out of jail to help those people transition back into the workforce. There's also going to be job hubs. These are going to be offices where people can get more training, where they can find connections to renewable energy jobs. This will be for the employees, future employees, and the employers for contractors who want to become solar energy contractors. And there's going to be one in Aurora. So we will be part of this movement towards energy efficiency. The sixth pillar, I started out this list with 4 pillars, but I decided there were at least 6. So the sixth pillar is everything else. That includes, there is some bailout for the nukes in here. There are people who are depending on those jobs. You go out west and you'll see signs that say, I don't mean far west, I mean 20 miles west of here. And you'll see signs that say, keep Braden open, keep the nukes open. Well, people depend on those jobs. So, and the nukes have been not economically viable for a long time, so they're needing subsidies. So maybe if you ever hear somebody complain about subsidies to solar, you can say, well, what about those nuclear plants that are getting subsidies? There's also an ethics part of ethics in here to make sure that, like lobbying, like Ms. Mueller mentioned. And there's also going to be a change in the rates, because in the past, there's something called formula rates where, and I worked for AT&T for many years, so I kind of remember this idea that because it's a regulated business, as your expenses go up, you can raise your rates. That's the formula. That's what the formula means. Well, what a mess. That means the more the ComEd spends on anything, the more we pay in rates. So this is going to be switched over to, ComEd will be incentivized to do more energy efficiency. Hence the charging stations are being offered by ComEd, more energy efficiency, more clean renewable energy. So they're going to be incentivized to help stop climate change, help create these equitable jobs and help support saving the planet as well as saving their shareholders, which, you know, we all want to keep the economy going, but we want to make sure that it's being done on the basis of stopping climate change and equity. So this energy bill is such a huge deal. This is making Illinois really one of the leaders in the country. And there's just wonderful things that will be coming forward from the energy bill, Climate and Equitable Jobs Act.
Thank you for giving that, Ms. Bates. You know, a lot of people don't understand sometimes what's in the bill, and that's why, you know, when I ask folks to bring stuff to these meetings to give us an update, you understand it better than I do, so we'd like to hear about those things. But it is no small feat to get those things done, so your support to our legislators matters. Our support as a committee to those legislators matters, so I thank you for that as well.
You're welcome.
Real quick, sure.
Mavis, could you get us a copy of your 6 pillars? That would be fabulous if you could share
Okay.
those with us.
Yes, I can write up.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. We'll start with the easy one, and then the other one will be a little bit more thoughtful. You mentioned charging station, Mrs. Bates, supported by ComEd. I live in an area, as does Mr. Brown, where it's municipal. We pay the municipality for our electric bill. Do we have access to charging stations as well?
I think so. Well, no, maybe not, because
No, we
it's,
do not. So
it's
that
coming
should be,
from ComEd.
that is a huge gap.
Okay.
And that should be addressed because some of our municipal organizations or municipalities are large.
Okay,
And yes, we do have Prairie State, and we will be locked into Prairie State until 2040. So we can pound it all we want, but nonetheless, that is our source of energy, electricity. So we have to
Okay.
live with our neighbor, who is Prairie State.
all right, because the email that we received was from ComEd,
Correct.
because we are a ComEd customer.
I understand
So
that.
you will not be getting that email.
But no, we will not.
Okay,
No, because we're municipal and there are many municipalities that provide their own electricity here in Kane County. So that is, that may be a benefit from ComEd, but it is not equitable if we're looking at raising all levels up.
okay. And maybe you will be getting some kind of letter like that, but I'll find out.
If you can. So here's the next one. I just got an email from one of our constituents who is very concerned about the gas tax. And the gas tax is, if I may say, a dinosaur right now, as you were just mentioning, the growth in electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles who are going to be using less gas. And for those of us who have older cars, who choose to keep our older cars because of finances or simply because they run well. And my car is a 2016. I know some cars are 2011 and they're still good and they're running well. They've been maintained well. So we can continue to use them. Very much like property tax, it is a user tax, punitive tax, but we have a different economy now. Things are starting to shift and change. So should there be, the suggestion was by this constituent, that we instead have a tag. Perhaps it would be a county tag. I don't know how this goes about, where it's based on the weight of the vehicle and that we all pay in whether or not you have an electric car, hybrid car, or a petroleum car with the tag, and that we all pay into that tag. So that all people who, no matter what vehicle you're using, how it's powered, can help support the needs of the county that which you live in. So how do we go about taking a look at this? What does it take? I mean, this is a question. Should this be something that we investigate or not? Because if you have an electric car, you don't have to pay the tax.
I believe,
Mr. Brown, go
and
ahead.
I'm not sure, yeah, thank you, Brown here. I'm not sure how you could verify this, but I believe that the state legislators are looking at that is because they realize also that the gas tax is going to be going away, and there's an awful lot of funding that comes to the state through the gas tax. So they're looking at how they're going to replace that, whether it be through a license plate fee or a tag fee, or, so I don't know, I don't think we ought to try to reinvent the wheel, but we ought to know what's being done and how quickly it's going to be done.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we can, and I'm sure that I've gotten several letters about the gas tax. Of course, no one wants to pay an additional tax. I understand that. But we need to address things that are changing. We have a changing environment.
Mhm.
And as we buy electric cars, or hybrid cars, or our cars become much more efficient with petroleum, or our trucks, then how do we obtain the same amount of revenue, of a growing need of revenue, to support our roads, and our mass transit systems?
Ms. Biggs, go
Um,
ahead.
They have passed a year or two ago that people with electric cars have to pay more for their license plate.
But it's
Might be-
modest. It's a
it's
very,
Maybe $200.
it's a very modest
better.
increase, if I may. And we know people who have electric cars. They may have bought $100,000 electric car who smile at this and tease me about it.
Opie, please.
Definitely- Oh, Mr. Copey, go right ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. In the farming industry, and I know this applies to other industries.
Mr. Copey, I
we can't-
cannot hear you.
How's it? Is this better?
Oh, that's much better. There you go.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I make that mistake all the time. In the farming industry, we have our trucks are seasonal, and so the state had created what's called a mileage apportionment plate, and we can buy that for X dollars, and we pay for, and we submit annually to the state on how many miles that we run, and there's a non-tamper mileage instrument that you mount to the truck. But with today's technology, of course, this is all integrated in, and could be downloaded computer-wise. But that is an idea to keep in mind. That again, that mechanism is in place also, mileage apportionment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Copey.
I believe that's one of the considerations that the state is looking at as well, mileage.
It is.
So could we get an update on that? And maybe Mr. Brown, if you have knowledge of that, we can.
My knowledge comes from Mayor Shelkey on that,
Okay.
and where, that this is one of the conversations that he with CMAP and everybody are always having. I can
Okay.
certainly see if you can give us more of an update on that, sure.
That would be fantastic. And then, as Anna Moeller has suggested, then we, as a committee, if so chosen, we can start advocating for that. Because obviously it has to shift as more electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles are on the road. I'm just looking at King County's
Proactive,
interests,
yeah.
that we can address that appropriately.
Sure. I'll see what more I can find out for the next meeting.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else? Any more comments from our co-chair?
Yes, I do have something. I brought show and tell today.
Wahoo!
When Miss Moeller was speaking, she talked about our traveling legislative show. And so I just wanted to let the committee know, and people online who are listening know, that Michelle and I are continuing our traveling legislative show. And with the help of staff, we have put together these bags. It has the seal of the county. The county's colors are blue and gold, which I didn't know until we started this. And this is filled with goodies. And co-chair Michelle and my business cards so that they can contact us. So they do have our contact information. And I just wanted to share with you what we have put in here. We have this lovely drinking, whatever this is, water bottle, thank you. That is not a one-use plastic, it's reusable. We have a mask from the health department and sanitizer. We also have, I didn't put it in my bag, we have a lovely little kit from the health department that is to get ticks out, believe it or not. It's a little thing that you scrape out the tick and then you have some sanitizer to put on top. We also have in here, and this is just to highlight our county and the services that we have. So if these people don't know about it, they will know. We have our bicycle map. We have lots of wonderful maps, paths in the county for bicyclists, and also a map of our Fox River Trail. And this is just stuff to introduce the people that we're contacting and let them know that the county is here, that we're engaged, we're involved. We want them to know that if they need to contact us, they have contact information. We want to set a relationship with them so that when we have these issues like gas tax, that they know about us and that they know that we're active and we're on the move in King County. So this is, we're getting great receptions when we,
Everybody loves you, Cheryl.
well, everybody loves to get a gift, right?
Yeah.
There's also a lovely King County coffee mug.
The coffee cup, yeah.
So, and who doesn't like to have coffee? This was, we thought we were able to have a coffee early on, but because of the pandemic, we weren't able to. About the time we thought we could, oh, now we can do a coffee, the variant came in. So this was our answer to letting them know that King County is here and we're active and engaged. That's my show and tell for today.
Done. Well done. I have to thank Cheryl for putting them together. She's the mastermind behind putting them together. I just deliver them with a smile.
There you go.
But those smiles are super important. So when we talk about these issues, the relationship that you make with them at the beginning is very important. And that will precipitate everything that comes after. But that relationship matters and we want to be partners with our legislators. So super important. Ms. Bates.
Are we planning on bringing other representatives to our meetings? Because that was
Absolutely.
super fun having, so.
We're always in communication with them and Cheryl and I go back and forth about who's coming when, sometimes conflicts come up at the last minute. So, but we're always, and anybody on this committee, certainly anybody on the board, if you want to talk one of them into coming and just, visiting with us, they're always welcome.
Okay.
So, but other than that, we don't have any new business. There's no need for executive session. We got another meeting in 5 minutes.
I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Brown, second.
Second, Bates?
Ms. Bates, seconds, and we are all in favor? Aye,
Hi.
very good.